Welcome back to Product Data Weekly. This is a short practical podcast about the realities of product data operations. Each week, we explore the challenges that sit behind growing catalogs, evolving systems, and ever-increasing product data demands. There's no theory, no vendor hype, just grounded conversations about what it really takes to manage product data at scale. If you're involved in e-commerce, product information, supplier onboarding, ERP, PIM, marketplace feeds, or anything connected to product data, this is the place for you. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Claire. Nice to be back.
Okay, so one of the topics that we've been talking a lot about is product discovery. We've probably been talking about it a lot recently from the lens of AI agents and product discovery. But one of the blockers that we see a lot of the time to product discovery, kind of at the root cause, is about classifying and categorization, right? So we thought we would break that down today because there's a little bit, I think sometimes there's also a little bit of confusion about what it means to classify a product versus categorize a product. So that's what we are going to cover. So tell us, Ben, what is the difference between classification and categorization?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people use these words interchangeably in businesses, which is, and often businesses have their own ways of describing how to classify and categorize something. But from our perspective, classification decides what a product says about itself, okay? Whereas a categorization decides where anyone, like a customer or an AI agent, can reach it, all right? So classifying something, you're kind of deciding what it is. Categorizing, you're deciding where it goes, okay? And if you just think about this in the context of like an actual, like let's say, I don't know, like a retailer or a distributor, when they're onboarding a product from a supplier, in order to determine what they need to onboard, the attributes they need to onboard and enrich for that product, they need to classify the product, okay? Because you have to have a starting point of attributes, requirements to create the thing in the first place, yeah, and onboard that from your supplier. And the fact is you want to be incorporating in that classification model all the attributes that are relevant for that one product, yeah. So we see a lot in businesses. There's this kind of concept of like a backbone classification, which is effectively the one classification standard that data is onboarded to and products are set up under. Okay. Obviously, all of those attributes that are populated in that classification then get sent downstream to all the channels to enable product discovery, search, filtering, blah blah blah, all those sorts of things. Categorization is a very customer-facing concept, right? So you might classify a product into one classification to onboard all the attributes and enrich it, but then where you put that product in your category structure. So the best example of this is a website that has category tree that the customer can navigate. They're like, oh, I'm after this thing, it probably lives in this category. That is categorization. In many cases, a product can live in more than one categorization structure because there might be many channels that the product gets categorized in. So both of those things are really important because the classification drives all the filters and the attributes. The categorization often drives the nav and the logical reasoning the customer's using to find the product.
And I guess if you skip straight to categorizing something without classifying it, you could have the right product in the right category, but have really bad product data.
Yeah, you won't necessarily. That's a really good example. Actually, we've worked with a lot of businesses where classification and categorization are the same. So what's happened is someone's come up with an e-commerce website category structure, and then they've asked all their suppliers to start onboarding products into it. And the problem with that is it potentially misses a lot of the attribute requirements if you're like siloing a product just into one very niche channel specific category, yeah. And a lot of product data and PIM projects we've done have actually been unpicking that and decoupling classification from categorization, yeah. So you have to do both, and you have to do it in that sequence.
Yeah.
And defining that classification standard is often the hardest bit, because you're basically going to the whole business, and you're often going upstream to, you know, annoyingly in most businesses they call them category managers, which in itself is just confusing as
They should be
hell.
classification managers. Yeah, that's true,
Exactly,
actually, yeah.
because it's like a
But they're
buying
basically
category,
product
buying
experts on
category.
that particular
Yeah,
product, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
and that's right. And then there's lots of to and fro's about what should be included and what shouldn't. And
mm.
yeah, okay.
And it's very like, it's very subjective, isn't it? It's very subjective, because if you went and asked like a category manager what attributes they care about, they're probably very like, I don't know, they're more like buying related attributes. They're not really like customer specific attributes. And then if you go and ask an e-commerce team, they're probably just like, oh yeah, I just need things to drive my filters.
Yeah, or we want it to look pretty, so
Pretty,
we don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
in it. Yeah,
We want a just one description or whatever. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a really
yeah.
difficult thing to define.
We were, I recall last week actually, there was an internal, not argument, but there was a discussion about it was an EV wall bracket. So it wasn't actually the EV charger, and whether it should sit in like a wall bracket or in the
Yeah,
EV charger. And it was
yeah,
this whole kind of, and so then everybody kind of had to have their say on
yeah,
where they think
yeah,
it should
yeah. Or
be or where a customer.
maybe it should sit in both of those as categories on the website, but sit in one classification
Well, exactly,
family
because
or
trying
something.
to classify or enrich a product as an EV charger that's actually a wall bracket, none of the
Mm,
attributes made sense. But
yeah,
obviously, you would a customer go and look in a wall bracket
yeah,
online? No, probably
yeah.
not. So yeah, so that's just an example of
Well, and I think the other thing I was just going to say is on the category side, the best example actually we should have probably mentioned is like where you have multiple sales channels. So if you're categorizing a product on your website, but then you're categorizing it in a Google shopping
mm,
feed, the Google have their own, and this is where it gets really confusing, classification structure,
yeah, which actually
which
is
has categories
categorization.
in it. Yeah, and so it's like, of course, a product is going to have more than one category,
Mm,
but it, as far as like the actual backbone classification, that's the bit I think that's the key, isn't it? That's the bit you onboard to, you onboard the product to, and that's the key. Because what you don't want to be happening, basically, what happens in most businesses is they'll onboard the product, they'll consider one like subset of the classification maybe for a certain channel, and then they'll realize they're missing all the attributes for Google, all the attributes for marketplaces, and then I'll have to go and, or in many cases, I know this with a lot of retailers we work with, they don't bother, they just set up their own marketplace and just forget about most of the attributes because they
yeah,
can't be bothered to go and
just
get
to get
them.
it live.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess that so what you're if it's in the wrong category, customers,
Can't find it.
yeah, it's not going to show up. So it
Yeah.
might be there, but they won't be able to find it.
Yeah.
I think it will affect as well AI. So what we know about how
Yeah.
agents go and look. So if the classification is not driving the right attributes for the product,
Mm,
then it won't understand that that's what the product is,
yeah.
even if it's sitting in a category within that.
Yeah. And if it's not, and if you're not classifying your product to a backbone classification correctly, then you will and that classification is not well defined with the attributes required. You will miss attributes, but then when when your customers are on your website, not only will they not be able to find the product for your categories, they also won't be able to filter the products correctly because they
Exactly.
won't have the right attributes.
Yeah.
So basically, classify your product properly and then put it in the right categories depending on the channel that you're
Yeah, because there
selling
are
it on.
commercial issues with that. Like if you don't do that, your conversion on those products
Mm,
will be pretty
yeah.
low. You'll have stock that will be sitting there that's classified wrongly that
Long tail, they always talk about that long tail, don't they? Businesses of stock, it's like no one wants to buy this. It's like, well, maybe they can't find it.
yeah, they don't know it exists.
Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, that's
it's like the
probably
stock.
something that you could do is like go and look at the products that have had zero sales for the past,
Yeah, You know,
6 months.
best example of this actually in the real world is in John Lewis they have like that discount section, the clearance area.
Yeah.
And basically, so John Lewis is really well organized and everything's in logical places. And then you walk over to the clearance thing and they've basically just chucked all of the products that are on clearance into a huge area, jumble sale.
Yeah.
That is the best example of like miscategorization, is that let's just chuck everything in a clearance category and forget about it.
Totally.
And then part of the fun is like rummaging through all of that to see if you find like a super deal.
Yeah.
You've got the time to do that. But that is a perfect example of poor categorization experience. Yeah, rather than having all those products in the right areas of the store just on sale. Don't just bundle them all into a new clearance category.
Oh, it's one of my pet hates that you'll be like looking at, I don't know, you filter by some kind of dress or something, and then all of a sudden there's some, I don't know, random hat or something in there that you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
how did that even get past that? Yeah, it really annoys me.
All right.
So, okay, and so what, practically speaking, what, obviously starting with classification, but how would businesses identify if they've actually even got a problem in the first place with this?
Probably, I don't know really. I mean, the category thing is like go looking for a product and see if you can find it just from looking in the different categories on your website. Don't cheat and use the filters. Just
Yeah, see if it
find
turns
it.
up. Yeah.
That is a really difficult thing to usually find on websites. Yeah, it's like which one of their categories would this product logically sit in?
Yeah.
And then on the classification stuff, I mean, go searching for a product type, product category. I don't know, like the best example we've used recently is like, earphones with waterproof earphones. If you, I don't know, with like a certain rating or whatever, waterproof rating, if you can't see the filters they're required to kind of easily whittle down the results into the specific type of earphones you're looking for, the products are probably, the product classification is probably not extensive enough.
Yeah, too high level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too high level, and that will be an upstream problem, is they won't be collecting the right level of attributes to drive that, those filters within that product. Yeah.
So we want to see all your websites beautifully categorized with the right products that have been classified to the backbone consistently. There we go. All right.